Yeah, I mean, listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is propaganda from the other side.
I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight, Piers. I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Muslim. I'm just saying what I believe is right. They are.
In a fiery exchange, Dan Bilzerian and Piers Morgan go head-to-head in a bold debate over Israel, Palestine, and how the media shapes public opinion. Known for speaking his mind, Dan doesn't hold back, but Piers pushes back hard, calling out bias and raising tough questions about anti-Semitism. The conversation dives deep into the gray areas of free speech, media influence, and the double standards often seen in how Israel and Palestine are discussed. It's a powerful clash that brings more heat than headlines. Don't miss it.
Organization that perpetrated on October the 7th one of the worst terror attacks in modern history. What's heroic about that?
Well, I think when you look at it in a vacuum, it's a very different picture. If you got multiple acts of terror, in my opinion, on Israel's side, that would make October 7th look like nothing. So to me, I think it was a retaliation, and I think that Hamas is a resistance organization.
When did Israel kill 1,200 people in a single day and wound nearly 7,000?
There was, 15,000 people killed during Nakba. I mean, there was Sabra and Shatila. I mean, that was 3,500 civilians. Then you have 2014, they killed 1,500 civilians. 500 plus were kids. I mean, so any one of those days would have been much worse than October 7th, but nobody really talks about
those
that.
Didn't happen in a single day.
And October 7th is not nearly as bad as what they say.
Well, those didn't happen in single days.
Dan Bilzerian argues that the October 7th attack, which Piers Morgan calls a terrorist act by Hamas, needs to be seen in a wider historical context. He points to years of Israeli actions against Palestinians as part of the full picture. Dan compares this recent violence to past events like the Nakba in 1948, the Sabra and Shatila massacre in 1982, and Operation Protective Edge in 2014, all of which, he says, led to far more Palestinian deaths. It's a controversial take that challenges the mainstream view. Let's take a closer look.
500 people, so that was basically 7 October 7ths, and October 7th, I think the numbers get inflated a lot too, because you're not taking into account that it was only 650 civilians, and there was the Hannibal Directive that was employed, and the Hannibal Directive is when the military is basically killing civilians so that they aren't taken as hostages. And that had to be hundreds of people, so I would argue that it was less than 500 civilians that were killed, and to me, that is much less than what the Israelis have been doing to the Palestinians. The year when October 7th happened, they had killed, hundreds of Palestinians that year. It was the bloodiest year for kids. So that was a reply to what had been happening. Problem is, Israel has continued to lie and lie and lie, and they've been caught lying. And they're the only ones that have actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners. And they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them. So I think it's very hypocritical to focus on things that they're doing and then try and blame them, on Hamas or the Palestinians. Just, to me, total bullshit. It's just Israeli propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is propaganda from the other side.
During, Sabra and Shatila, there was a, girl raped in front of her father. And, that's happened on the other side numerous times. I mean, it happened in the prison. I mean, they were literally rioting because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. So to me, I think it's.
Dan Bilzerian argues that past events show a clear pattern of Israeli violence, a pattern he says is often left out of mainstream media coverage. He believes October 7th shouldn't be seen as a random act of terror, but as part of a long and painful history. In response to Piers Morgan calling Hamas a terrorist group, Bilzerian pushes back. He calls it a resistance movement and says that, under occupation and apartheid-like conditions, violent resistance can be seen as a reaction, not just aggression. He compares the Palestinian fight to the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, which won global support and attention. By drawing that connection, Bilzerian suggests the world should rethink how it labels Palestinian actions, arguing that calling them terrorism without looking at the full picture is unfair and misleading.
Hamas are not terrorists, they're an army fighting for their country against the worst terror organization on the planet. And yet Hamas were given power in Gaza in 2005. They were given billions of dollars, a lot of it in a very suspect manner by Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, because he wanted to create a rift between Palestinian groups, and I completely accept that. But there's no doubt from what has now emerged that Hamas spent most of that money not on benefiting the lives of Palestinian people in Gaza, but on building an elaborate tunnel system and arming themselves to the teeth so that they could perpetrate this act of horror on October the 7th.
I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight, Piers. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Muslim. I'm just saying what I believe is right. They are, an occupied state, and they're operating in apartheid. So when you are kept in an open air prison, there's going to be resistance, and how that resistance manifests itself is, it's going to be violent eventually. I mean, if you kill enough people and you take enough land and you treat people like second-class citizens, and and you're stealing land in the West Bank, and you're just basically encroaching these people's human rights on a daily basis, there's going to be repercussions. So I'm not going to be the judge or jury, and I'm not going to condemn these people for fighting back. I think nobody had an issue with South African apartheid and their resistance, so I don't know why there's an issue with the resistance in the clear apartheid that's going on here.
You said the Jews killed JFK and that Israel wanted October the 7th to happen so that Israel, had a reason to take the land. But just to be clear, you have absolutely no evidence that any Jews killed JFK, do you? Nothing.
Dan Bilzerian argues that Israeli interests have a strong grip on U.S. media and foreign policy, shaping the story in Israel's favor while silencing voices that support Palestinians. He claims that Israel uses advanced propaganda to influence global opinion, painting Palestinians as the aggressors, no matter how much force Israel uses in return. According to Bilzerian, this control over public perception hides the full truth of the conflict. It allows Israeli actions to go mostly unchecked, while Palestinian resistance is often seen in a negative light. As a result, the world gets a one-sided view, one that, he says, doesn't reflect the real situation on the ground.
See how much control Israel has over our government, and it's not healthy. And I see our politicians acting on behalf of Israel instead of on behalf of what is best for the United States. And that is, as a veteran, where I really have huge problems with this.
What was it you said that the Jewish people said there were weapons of mass destruction? I mean, it was President Bush, he's not Jewish. It was Colin Powell. He wasn't Jewish, as far as I'm aware. What are you talking about?
I truly believe that Epstein Island was a Mossad operation, and they have dirt on our politicians, and they've done plenty of these, and that is why they control our country. Why else would our country be doing everything in Israel's benefit to our own detriment? Israel doesn't do anything for us.
It just seems to me that when people have accused you, if they have, of being anti-Semitic, this is the reason why. It's because you look everywhere for a reason to blame Israel for absolutely everything, even when there's no evidence that it was Israel involved in the actual orders that were taken.
Well, we went there because Netanyahu testified in front of Congress that they had weapons of mass destruction, which was a total lie, and it was a lie to benefit Israel because that was an enemy of Israel. So what I'm saying is they are the beneficiary of what we are.
Dan Bilzerian argues that Israeli interests have a strong grip on U.S. media and foreign policy, shaping the story in Israel's favor while silencing voices that support Palestinians. He claims that Israel uses advanced propaganda to influence global opinion, painting Palestinians as the aggressors, no matter how much force Israel uses in return. According to Bilzerian, this control over public perception hides the full truth of the conflict. It allows Israeli actions to go mostly unchecked, while Palestinian resistance is often seen in a negative light. As a result, the world gets a one-sided view, one that, he says, doesn't reflect the real situation on the ground.
Supremacy is the greatest threat to America, and I think it's the greatest threat to the world today. I truly believe that.
You see, I'm sorry, but I just find that unbelievably offensive, and I'm not even Jewish.
Jews have killed far more Christians. I mean, it's not even close. If you look at the Bolshevik genocide, you look at the Holodomor, I mean, they've killed way more Christians. I mean, they basically invented the genocide. So, they denied the Armenian genocide. Israel denies that. They've lobbied the U.S. to deny that. I'm Armenian. They killed half of my people.
It sounds to me, Dan, like you do actually hate Jewish people.
No, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to the world today. If left unchecked, I think it's going to ruin the world.
But again, you're blaming Jewish people. Why?
They're controlling the media. You look at where this is coming from, it's not a surprise.
Right, do you accept, Dan, that you are just blatantly anti-Semitic?
I have an issue with that term. I mean, I think the real Semites are the Palestinians. The DNA test that they've done on the Israelis that are living over there, they're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. I don't even think they're actual Semites. They don't have ancient Hebrew DNA, which is why DNA testing is illegal in Israel.
You are just a brazen anti-Semite, aren't you? You hate Jewish people, you hate Israel, you hate the state of Israel.
Well, I think most of the problems today is caused by Jewish supremacy. I believe that.
I'm honestly gobsmacked that you would say all this publicly.
It's not a popular opinion for somebody that, cares about money and cares about, not being canceled. I mean, that's the problem, is you can say whatever you want against Muslims. You can be, super anti-Muslim. You can talk about them and nobody cares, but if you say anything about Jewish people, you get canceled. Look what they did to Kanye. Why are they such a protected class? I don't believe in white supremacy. I don't believe in Jewish supremacy. I don't believe in supremacy at all. And right now, I think you have massive Jewish supremacy.
You sound like a Nazi. That's literally what Nazis would have said in World War II.
I don't have a hatred for Jewish people. I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that, and they're treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. They're treating them like subhuman beasts. And I don't think that Judaism and Christianity go hand in hand. I mean, they believe that Jesus is in hell burning in human shit, and they believe the Virgin Mary is a whore. So I don't think those are two religions that really intersect very well. But, we've been programmed that they do, and we've been programmed that it's okay. I think everybody's equal. I've had a lot of Jewish people attack me since I started standing up in support of Palestine. When I started saying things that were against Israel, my Jewish business manager tried to extort me. I had lawyers do things that were illegal, and a lot of, just hatred from the Jewish community because I was speaking out against a genocide.
Do you hate Jewish people?
No, I don't. There's 2 billion Muslims, but everybody wants to, promote this anti-Muslim, this hatred for Muslim, like they're all, these terrorists. And I think the Israelis are the terrorists. I think they are the ones perpetuating the big acts of terrorism.
Piers Morgan pushes back on Dan Bilzerian's views, suggesting that some of his criticism of Israel might cross the line into anti-Semitism. But Bilzerian strongly disagrees. He makes it clear that his comments are aimed at Israeli policies and what he calls Jewish supremacy in global politics, not at Jewish people in general. Bilzerian argues that holding Israel accountable should not be seen as hate speech, while Morgan remains skeptical and accuses him of spreading anti-Semitic ideas. Bilzerian fires back, pointing to what he sees as a clear double standard. Criticism of Muslims is common in media, but similar criticism of Jewish groups or Israel often leads to immediate backlash. He says his goal isn't to offend, it's to call for fairness and open discussion, blending history, bold opinions, and controversial views. Bilzerian argues that the current conversation around Israel and Palestine shuts down dissent too quickly. He wants more space for honest debate. Still, Morgan continues to challenge him, calling his arguments one-sided and potentially dangerous. The back and forth highlights just how complicated and emotional the Israel-Palestine issue is, with both men representing very different ideas about what should or shouldn't be said. What's your take on this fiery exchange? Drop your thoughts in the comments.